Hello and welcome. I am a hotel AI expert, and I'm very pleased to welcome all of you, the students of Europe Hotel School, to your online learning journey. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most critical skills for any future hotel leader: budget variance analysis. But listen, this isn't just about crunching numbers. It's really about understanding the story behind them so you can make smarter, better decisions. All right, let's get started.
Let's start with this right here, because this is really the core idea. This quote just perfectly captures the shift in perspective we need. We've got to move beyond thinking of this as simple accounting and start seeing it as strategic leadership. A variance analysis isn't just a report that sits on a desk, it's a conversation. It's about communication, understanding, and making those crucial decisions.
So first things first, let's establish the foundation. What does it really mean to hold up, a financial mirror to our hotel's operations?
At its heart, it's pretty simple. This is the practice that connects our plan with what actually happened. Think of the budget as our roadmap. It's what we intended to do financially. The actuals? Well, that's the journey itself, reflecting what really went down. And in most hotels, this comparison happens like clockwork every single month. And here is the single most important takeaway. The goal is not just to find a difference and say, oh, we're up $5,000 here. The real value, the real gold, is in understanding why that difference happened. What story are these numbers trying to tell us about our business, our guests, our strategy? Answering that question is how we turn raw data into intelligence we can actually use. Okay, so now we're going to peel back the first layer. You see, the terms favorable and unfavorable can be, well, they can be dangerously simple. It's so important to challenge this idea that one is always good and the other is always bad. Let's add some much-needed context.
I really want you to think about this for a moment. Just pause and consider it. If your revenue comes in higher than you budgeted, or your expenses come in lower, is that automatically a success? Is it always a win? As you're about to see, the answer is hardly ever that simple.
So let's break down what a favorable revenue variance could actually mean. Did we have higher occupancy, meaning we just had more guests in our rooms? Or did it come from a much higher average daily rate, or ADR, the average price paid per room? You see, these are two very different stories. One might mean we're fantastic at filling the hotel, while the other suggests we're commanding a premium price. Without knowing the driver, that top-line number can be really deceptive.
And you know what? The exact same logic applies to our expenses. A favorable expense variance sounds awesome on paper, but we have to ask how we achieved it. Did your team negotiate a better contract with a food supplier? That's a huge win. But what if those savings came from understaffing the front desk, and now you've got long lines and frustrated guests? That's a perfect example of why you have to question a win that can't be explained. A short-term gain that hurts the guest experience isn't a victory. It's a debt you're going to pay later in bad reviews and lost business.
This leads us perfectly into our next level of analysis. Because to get a true picture of performance, we absolutely have to separate what we can control from what the market just throws at us. And this is the critical distinction between volume and efficiency.
Think of it like this. Volume variances are caused by changes in the tide. Things like a big citywide conference bring in way more guests than we expected. Efficiency variances, on the other hand, well, they measure how well you sailed your ship with the tide you were given. It's about how you managed your staff and supplies for the business you actually had, not the business you planned for.
And this is exactly why separating them is so incredibly important. It lets us fairly evaluate a manager's performance based on what was actually within their control. It isolates the impact of market forces, like that surprisingly busy week, from the operational decisions made to handle that week. It's about fairness and clarity.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at this example. In both scenarios, A and B, we have the exact same $5,000 unfavorable variance, but the stories they tell are worlds apart. In scenario A, higher than expected occupancy drove the need for more labor. That's a volume issue. You could even call it the cost of success. But look at scenario B. Occupancy was exactly as planned, yet our costs were still higher. That points directly to an inefficiency issue, maybe something with scheduling or productivity. Same number, two completely different management conversations.
Okay, now for a key consideration that honestly trips up a lot of managers: timing. You have to remember that not all revenues, and especially not all expenses, hit our books evenly throughout the year.
This timeline is a perfect illustration. So imagine your annual insurance premium is $120,000, and it's all paid in one lump sum in January. But your budget spreads that cost evenly at $10,000 a month. Well, in January, you are going to see a massive, alarming, unfavorable variance. This is exactly why looking at a single month in isolation can be so misleading. You always have to consider the year-to-date performance to get the real story.
So, let's bring all of this together. Let's zoom out to the big picture. Because when you use variance analysis correctly, it becomes so much more than a report. It really transforms into a powerful tool for learning and for leadership. What this process does is build a culture of accountability, not blame. There's a huge difference. It assigns responsibility to the right level. Your department heads own the costs they can directly control, like staff scheduling or supply ordering. Senior leadership, they own the big picture challenges, like major market shifts. This clarity empowers your team, it encourages ownership and creative problem solving, and it fosters a culture of trust.
And when you do it consistently, this whole thing becomes an incredible learning tool. The most effective organizations use this process to create a continuous feedback loop. They analyze the results, they identify patterns, they learn from their own forecasting mistakes, and, this is the most important part, they use those insights to build smarter, more accurate budgets for the future.
Ultimately, this is the goal. We're trying to transform a static financial report that only looks backward into a dynamic, forward-looking cycle of continuous improvement. Mastering the skill is a true hallmark of an effective hospitality leader.
So I'll leave you with this one question to carry with you throughout your careers. The next time you look at a financial statement, don't just see the numbers. Look for the narrative. Your job as a future leader is to understand that story, and then to write the next chapter. Thank you.